We are going to be talking to life coach and thought leader, a local Houstonian, which is always exciting when I have an opportunity to welcome someone that is here in the city. So we talk to folks all over the country. And so this morning, we are going to be talking to author and producer Carlos Wallace, and a very, very interesting, as an author, very interesting book, Life is Not Complicated, You Are. I love that title. So, without any further ado, let me welcome into the KCOH studios Mr. Carlos Wallace. Good morning, Carlos. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. Glad to be here, man. Glad to have be on with your listeners, and I just want to say thanks for having me.
Certainly. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. So we are going to talk about the book here in just a little while, but you've got an interesting story, and we were talking offline for just a few moments, and you were telling me, almost everyone has a book in them somewhere, right? So what drives someone to go from having the thought to actualizing it? Let's start there. What inspired you?
Well, you want to. I like the people that want to give and want to add something to society, and the book that's in you that you should want to share is so that it can help others and help inspire them to want to do things that's beyond what they thought was their reach. And and I think this book. I know just from the feedback, people say, "Man, after reading that, now I feel like I can do anything."
I love that. Well, so then really the underlying motivation is empowering others, is empowering the individuals.
Absolutely. Be a better you,
Yes.
And it starts with the person in the mirror, the person you sleep with and wake up and look at every day.
Wow. I love that. And that's absolutely true. I think if everyone sort of took the approach to life that every day in every way they aspire to be better and better, then our world would improve overnight, literally, because we would see growth in each individual. So then, sometimes I've spoken to authors in the past, and sometimes a book is born from one's pain, if you will. I know, and I want to talk a little bit about the comedians and things. It's another part of your world that you deal with, and I know a lot of comedians are funny people, but man, inside there's some turmoil going on too.
Absolutely.
So talk to me a little bit about the genesis of this and just kind of your overall philosophy on how overcoming challenges really is something that we need to do, and what are some of the steps we can do to achieve that?
Well, the first thing you have to come to accept is everything you go through in life, the good, the bad, and indifferent, is a piece of the overall plan. And nothing's a mistake if you learn something. It was an experience. And you take from that the education to hopefully not make the same mistake or go through the same process. But also you share that with others, mostly your children. Your parents would say, "Hey, I went through that, so you don't have to." And at no point should there be a regress. It should continue to be a progress. And it doesn't just stop at home. It stops with sharing it with your community, with your city, your state, and throughout. It makes a better nation, and in turn makes a better world.
I like that. I like that. So then really the first step in the process is to realize that even in the most challenging times, things are by divine design.
Absolutely. It's not about you. It's not. It's much bigger. Always. It's a much bigger. You are a part of a much bigger plan. Always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. I remember I read an article on Steve Jobs, and most of us know Steve Jobs as the genius behind Apple and the empire it's become and the challenges. But one of the things he said that I thought was interesting in his experience was that he dropped out of college, and he just, to please his parents, he just pretended he was going to school, and he took calligraphy, he said. They said it was a waste. It seemed like just a waste of time taking calligraphy of all things. Why? But he liked the idea of curlicues and drawing. And he said he never saw any application for that in his life until he was designing the Apple computers, and he used the Sanskrit fonts. And then he started designing these fonts, and they were all based around this calligraphy training he had gotten years ago. So give me some examples in your own life of things that you thought had no real relevance, and then how did they tie in later in life?
Well, on the educational piece, I had a pretty extended conversation with my geometry teacher, I guess around my sophomore or junior year, in the same way. I said, and Mrs. Stein, she's gone on to glory, God rest her soul, but we argued about that. And I said, when will I ever need X plus Y equals G? And she said, Carlos, you will use geometry more than anything else in life. And during my Gulf War days in the Navy, early 90s, I wrote her a letter explaining how much I apologized, because she was absolutely right. You find yourself measuring the distance between A to B just by sight more often than you think in just day-to-day driving. And she was absolutely correct. But away from school, my this guy had a saying for everything. He would say to me, son, you can learn from anyone, even a bum. He'll teach you how to not be a bum. Right. And some of the things he would say, I would just look at him and scratch my head. But as you grow older and you mature, a lot of what he said starts to apply. And you just say, man, I wish I had written all those things, because I know for every one I remember, there's 10 I forgot.
Right. That's great. Well, it's interesting, because I know when it comes to our parents, sometimes, Mark Twain said, when I was 10 years old, I thought my father was the dumbest man I'd ever met. And by the time I was 15, I couldn't believe how much he learned in just 5 short years. So, I think as an evolutionary step. So your parents were pretty influential in your evolution. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. My mother, the ultimate warrior, the lady that lived as if she was a single mom, but she wasn't a single mom. And I say that in the most positive way. You didn't have to wait till Dad get home to get disciplined. She handled it. She could hold her own at it. And we're talking 5'8", 125 pounds. But and then my father, he was the guy that he could influence you without ever saying a word. He was the ultimate example of what a man is. And it was just, again, you grow to appreciate those when you're older and more mature, and you have your children and you're facing some of the adult situations that they face, and you start to think, man, there was a lot of strength in them, And so it just, with every day, you grow more and more appreciative of the things that they instilled in you during your childhood years and even my young adult years.
So in terms of some of those experiences, some of those formative experiences, expound on that a little bit. Give us a little bit of insight on what that did for you and what some of those things were.
Well, my father was he was James Evans. He took on the battle for his family every day.
Now we're talking good times, James Evans.
The good times, James
right,
Evans.
Yeah, I got you. All right.
Yeah, he took on the battle, and that's what he taught me as far as a man. When you think things are down, they're down, but you never let the family know you're afraid. You stand up, you be a man, and you continue to instill confidence in them through you. And that's what he did every day, not just on the struggle days, but every day. He was the living example. My mother, born with childhood diabetes, diagnosed at 9 years old, and not at any time did she allow that to be an excuse for something that she could or could not do. And it's just, I think in today's time, we look too much for the excuse, and instead of the reason to continue on, we look for the reason to stop. And she just gave me that, up until her death, and the same with my father until he passed. He passed away teaching me something. It's just, I was crying as he was dying, and he told me to stop. He said, be a man and be strong for everyone else, you know, because I'm the oldest. And it's just, they were those type of parents, you know.
You know, it's interesting as I hear you speak. We really cannot underestimate the power and influence of our parents. A few weeks ago on the Healthier You program, it was Mother's Day. And for those of you who were listening on that particular program, it was pretty inspiring. We had a young man who sent us a email about his mother, and he said that, you know, what made his mother special was that her sisters his sister rather was sick, and she eventually got so sick she died, and the mother took over the two children. And the mother then, after taking over the children, you know, have been raising them, and even with the mother's own infirmities and disability, she continues to be a pillar for those children. And, you know, we showered her with prizes. It was really very nice. And Father's Day is coming up. And we're going to do a celebration of fathers also. That's part of what we want to bring forward to our fathers. So if you have this is just a little aside point, but if you have a parent, a father in this case, on the 14th on Healthier You, we want to honor fathers. So send us an email. Go to our Facebook page and send us an email about what makes your dad special. We'd like to know, and we're going to award them some special mail prizes, you know, some things that we can give them in appreciation. Because, you know, as I listen to you speak, Carlos, I really appreciate how you say that both your mom and your dad were instrumental in shaping the man that you became ultimately.
You know, it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up about the Father's Day piece, because every year, you know, at our comedy shows around Father's Day, we honor the good fathers. I try my best to put comedians on the show that are fathers, and because the bad fathers get all the press.
Right.
You know, we're always hearing about the dad that didn't pay child support, the dad that didn't come to the graduation, the dad that didn't do this, the dad that didn't pick him up. What about the dad that did? You know, and don't mistake it. It's our job. It's what we should do. But can we get a little praise every once in a while? You know, can we say, man, you know, I appreciate you being the father you were, not just to your children, but to mine as well. But you rarely hear of that. You know, we may get it in private,
right,
but we hear enough in the headlines about the dad that didn't. How about the dad that did?
Right. And you know, when you bring up an important point, I think, and I say that to all listeners really, that, you know, in the African American community, there are challenges. There are many fathers who, for various reasons, have abdicated their responsibilities. But to your point, there are many who have stayed true to the course, who have continued to motivate and inspire and instill the values in their children. They're spiritual leaders who've assumed that responsibility for parents, fathers who perhaps have left and have not come back. So we want to applaud and celebrate that as well.
Yeah, it's in the book, there's a chapter, Legacy, and it talks about fathers. And it's a surprise in there, and I don't want to give it away, but the mothers love this chapter, both single and married. And I've even had some dads call me up, you know, guys I know, and said, man, I'm glad you wrote that chapter. I beat up dads a little bit. You know, I talk about leaving a legacy behind that you can be proud of, but that starts with grooming, teaching, and educating, and being the example for that kid today. So, but again, like I said, there's a surprise in there. But that chapter probably means, I can't say it means the most to me, because each individual chapter has a special piece. But that chapter means a lot to a lot of ladies, because it says a whole lot about a dad and how important he is in the household and in the community.
Yeah, you know, we can't underestimate that. I remember I was watching. I have two sons. Hope they're listening right now. But they're right now. They're bodybuilders. They're beautiful, 6'2", statuesque, muscle-bound guys. But interestingly, when they were a little bit younger, we were watching one of those children nature shows, and they were talking about these elephants. And they showed these little teenage elephants, and these things were musking. They were going through puberty, and they were going crazy. They were breaking down fences. They were killing the other animals, and the people that owned this big preserve that they were on were at their wits' end. So they invited like for a lack of a better word, an elephant whisperer, right? That comes in. He says, I tell you what your problem is right now. And they said, well, what is it? He says, you don't have any bull elephants here.
Right.
You have the female elephants, but you don't have any big male elephants.
That's correct.
So they imported these two huge African elephants, these big male bulls. And I mean, in a matter of minutes, after these young teenage elephants were running amok, these big guys came and just smacked them back into track. In about a week, they were all walking in line. They weren't breaking any fences. They stopped killing stuff. And it came right down to the discipline.
Absolutely.
Is that true in your experience from a parent standpoint, male standpoint?
Well, sure, absolutely. But even to extend beyond that, expound on it, a father will give his daughter an example of the type of man she should marry. Mm-hmm. The guy that's going to take care of business, take care of home, take care of the family, and be a leader in the household. And he will also show and be the example of the man his son should grow up to be. And when you remove that piece, that's such a huge piece. Mothers are important. They are extremely important. But there's just things about the father's role that a mother cannot. She just can't do it. She can tell you about it. She can express to you how great her father was, but she can't show you how to be a good father. Mm-hmm. Only a good father can do that.
Yes. Well said. You're listening to Healthier You here on the new KCOH. If you would like to ask Carlos Wallace a question or make a comment about the conversation we're having this morning, write this number down, 713-526-1230. That's 713-526-1230. We're talking about a book written by Carlos Wallace, Life is Not Complicated, You Are. So, Carlos, when someone calls this autobiographical, you kind of correct them a little bit. Tell us why.
Well, because it is about my life, but it's not in such a chronological order that it's a biography, but it's also written in a fashion or a form that's relatable for everyone. And actually, the publishing company, when I turned over the transcript and they were going over it, and the lead editor calls me up, and this is older Caucasian lady, probably 75. She's done this for 40 years. And she said, man, this is going to be a great book for all men. Mm. And I said, well, and my base is generally women. And I said, well, you think so? She said, yes. She said, this book is going to give all men a sexy way to share their troubles.
Okay. All right. Now, what she mean by that?
Because one of the things as men, especially African American, we're very prideful, mm-hmm. and there could be things going on inside that you just don't want to share because your pride won't allow you. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, more often than not, it kills us. Mm-hmm. You have a stroke, heart attack, stressed out, and there's so much that places you could reach out and just receive that comfort. Hey, brother, it's going to be all right. Mm-hmm. But in order for us to be able to do that for each other, we have to first share it. Mm-hmm.
That's true. We talk a lot on health and wellness on this show, and in many instances, we've seen cases from a health standpoint where a lot of men, they might be experiencing some discomfort, some pain, something that could be wrong, but they're either afraid or too proud or too macho, for a lack of a better word, to just go seek some help. And we have a lot of male listeners, and to those that do listen, I want to implore you to open up, not only when it comes to your physical health and making sure that you maintain that, because that's a value to your family. I mean, if you don't want to do it for you, do it for your family. You cannot underestimate the value of a child that grows up into adulthood. And, Carlos, it relates to something we were talking about offline as well, where you become an adult yourself, you become a parent yourself, to have your adult parent around and makes sense.
I share, in the speakings, when I in private form and sometime in large mass, turn the light on. You're not the only one in the dark. If you turn the light on, you'll see you have plenty of company. There's others with you. That's not to say you need to go to Facebook and air it all out, or social media. Seek the ones that have you in their best interest and share with them the troubling things you're going through. You don't have to walk alone. It's not about you. You're not the first one, I promise.
Yes. Well, it's good advice. And, healthcare professionals will tell you all the time that being able to have a constructive way to talk about grievances, to cope with stress, to deal with the challenges of life, ultimately preserves your health. It ultimately preserves your life and really enhances your quality of life.
I agree, 100%.
So in talking about coping mechanisms for stress, give us your take on that and what you do to sort of deal with the stresses in life.
Well, as you know, I love comedy.
Yes.
I not only producing, but I enjoy as a fan. I enjoy going to comedy shows. That is my therapy. I was just at a show last night. I love comedy. I can go to a comedy show every day. New York is my second favorite city. Of course, Houston's first, but New York, you can see comedy anytime you want. Just show up, and I love it. I love a good comedy set that's well thought out. In response to what you were speaking of a minute ago about pain, and Richard Pryor once said that the best comedy is a comic's pain, but he has to formulate it to make you laugh. And that is so true. That is so true.
So that's been your experience.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Some of the comedians I work with now, you take what was a horribly embarrassing moment, but when they formulate it and they release it on stage and everybody's laughing, and I'm behind saying, hey, I know the backstory, and it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny as it took place, But with most comics, that's their therapy. That's how they talk about it, and that's how they release it. And it's such a beautiful thing when I hear it from the tears and then to the laughter. It's such a beautiful thing and a beautiful transformation.
Yeah. And comedy is really a interesting forum because it really is therapeutic. Many of the people that we see that, as you say, are expressing these things and making people laugh have taken tragedy and really turned it into comedy. They've taken the frown and turned it upside down, as they say, right?
That's right. One of the comedians I know, a young lady from here in Houston, she has a joke where she says, I found out when I was 14 that my stepdaddy was really my real daddy. So my real daddy really ain't nothing, and what happened is her father passed away, and she was really depressed about it and kicking around, and her mother finally told her, hey, the guy you've been calling stepdad for 14 years is actually really your dad.
Wow.
And so to see it on stage and hear it's funny, but can you imagine at 14 to be told that, hey, the guy you thought was your dad, that you're mourning because he's passed, he was really nothing.
Wow.
And that had to be a traumatizing moment, but she found a way to make it funny, because and hopefully it helps someone else that may have dealt with the same thing.
Well, yeah, and that is really the art, I think, to comedy. But I was watching this documentary one time, and it was a gentleman in Spain. So it was being translated, and what he had to say was interesting. He said, every artist, in his opinion, of course, he says every single artist that he's ever encountered, if they were truly excellent at what they did, their excellence, their artistry, their creativity was born from pain.
I agree. I agree 100%. There's so much in there that you really need to release. And a comic, just as much as an author or an artist, a painter, they pass what's inside to us through their art form. Mm-hmm. And it's not any different than like I said, a comedian or a writer. You pass what's inside to us through their art form.
Right, exactly, and I think that speaks to this. So it's been fascinating so far, Carlos. We're gonna ask those of you who are interested in giving us a call and joining the conversation. The number is 713-526-1230. That's 713-526-1230. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment on A Healthier You.
Collins Communication Institute is a premier private tutoring company that places a core emphasis on the art of communication. We believe that strong public speaking skills are the foundation for mastering any academic subject and building self-confidence. This summer, CCI is hosting a special summer academic enrichment camp designed for middle school students. For the price of one registration, enrolled students will receive tutoring in the areas of speech and debate, English, math, and science from certified teachers. Classes begin June 9th, 8 to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. We offer small class sizes and flexible payment options. Classes are limited. Learn more by calling 1-800-244-3130. That's 1-800-244-3130. Or visit us at www.collinsci.com. At CCI, we believe that empowering a student to speak effectively will change his life and the world around him. We are changing lives, one speech at a time.
Collins Communication Institute. Call 1-800-244-3130. That's 1-800-244-3130. Vandalism and robbery rates are on the rise. If you're a business owner or manager, protect your property and employees today with Davidson Security Services. Davidson Security Services award-winning team has 35 years of security experience. Call today for a tailored plan to fit your needs and budget. Call 832-577-8360. That's 832-577-8360. Or visit davidsonsecurityservices.com.
The new 1230.
The new 1230.
KCOH.
All right, and we are back talking to Carlos Wallace, author of the book, If Life Is Not Complicated, You Are. Great title. And we're really talking, Carlos, here about the different nuances of how we are shaped in our community and the importance of parents, the importance of relationships, and so on. So, sometimes the dynamics in a household, the dynamics between a mom and a dad, father and mother, if you will, those dynamics can really, really shape and impact a child as well. So through the course of your own experiences in growing up, what was that dynamic like for you in your household?
Well, to just see both of them be phenomenal parents and giving me that balance, and not just myself, my brothers and sisters, but to give us that balance. And now as an adult, to talk to my friends that are now adults, and they gave me balance too. You know what I mean? My buddies of mine that didn't have a father, and their mom would bring them over to our house, and my dad would be the one to discipline them.
Wow.
And now, at 43, we joke about it, and it's funny, and for them to say, hey, he wasn't just your dad. So just to get that balance, and it helps you become a better person throughout your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, it's interesting because I know that they say it takes a village to raise a child. And we we've lost that somewhere along the way. You know, there was at one point, you know, a time when if a father figure was not present, as you said, someone else would step up to the plate and take on that responsibility.
That was just a part of it. That was a part of it. We didn't allow Mrs. Johnson's problem to only remain her problem. It was our problem. It was a community problem.
So societally now, we've seen this shift. Oftentimes we talk about that generation and we say, or this generation, if you will, and no offense to, JV, he was on Generation Next, right? we might have a JV's still in the studio. We may put him back on the mic on this one. All right. So now the question though is, what do you think has changed? I mean, what in your estimation has been this shift that's taken place?
I think the core is we as parents have become too soft. With my parents, I didn't have an opinion. They said it, I did it. End of story. It was a one-way conversation. And my father would say to me, "You have an opinion when your name's on the mailbox." All right. Until then, you do as I say.
Right. So it was the old value of this is my house, my rules.
That's correct. Period. End of story.
So now the question now though is you got this new generation. So what's the message to them?
Kind of the same thing. You know, I know you don't think your parents are very smart, but trust me, they are. Mm-hmm. You know, listen to what they have to say, and it'll apply at some point, or it'll make sense to you at some point. I promise. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, you know, I've often had some conversations with my kids, and you know, my son, you know, he's a very opinionated guy, and you know, we'll have these conversations. He's like, "Dad, yeah, I know, but you know, this is the way this is, and that." No, okay, well, life will teach you that. So.
Oh, absolutely, it's the best coach.
Yeah, you know, so they say oftentimes that you know, in school we're taught lessons and then we're tested, but in life we are tested and then we learn those lessons.
I agree.
And that's powerful. That's absolutely powerful. It's one of those truths in life. So getting back into some of that philosophy, some of the things you've had an interesting career in transition, because you started out, if I'm recalling correctly, on the as an engineer, and now you manage comics and you write books, and so how did all that happen for you?
Well, I'm first generation railroader. You know, railroading has been in my family for quite a while, and I love it, but there's a different calling. You know, people would always say, you know, how long do you think you'll work for Union Pacific or do what you do? And I said, well, God tells me to do something different. And that's just kind of how it is. The book, I never had any intent to write a book. I was approached. I fought it for as long as I could. And then with the encouragement of friends and family, I finally sat down. And in about 3 years, it took me to start and finish. And it's just been received so well that I've started on the next one. You know?
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Interesting. So really it came to you as sort of something that was inside of you that manifested itself through your life experience, and it's affected and impacted others as a result.
Correct. Yes, sir. I had no idea that my message or my story would be such an impact and such a life-changing piece for so many. Mm-hmm. And it kind of holds you to a different level of responsibility, because now you have been introduced to the world as a leader, mm-hmm. as the spokesperson, as the face. And it kind of, you know, it reminds me to continue being the example that my father taught me to be as a man.
Yes, well, that is important, and I think as men we have an obligation to really continue to inspire, motivate, educate the children, our our children, others' children, because ultimately they look up to us, and they look, people will doubt what you say, but they believe what you do, and I think that's more true with children than anything else. If you would like to, I heard the phone lines ring a moment ago, and we might have missed that call, but 713-526-1230, that's 713-526-1230. Let's go ahead and take a call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with A Healthier You.
Hi, how are you, G-Unit?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey,
C5.
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you talk about just, the business part of all this, but how does it actually make you feel that you are changing people's lives and you are exactly who you are outside of all this, if you know what I mean?
Yes, this is Crystal. She lives in the Woodlands, and she was my computer repair girl, man. I just walked into her shop. She repaired my computer, and we actually became very good friends. But and she can attest, I just do what I do. I just try to be the man that I am, not realizing who's watching or not even paying attention to that piece. Just be the man you are and be the example you are. And you never know whose life you're changing or inspiring. Mm-hmm. And
yes.
she, yeah. Hey, thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. But thank you so much.
Hey, and I'm coming out there soon, I promise.
All right. Well, thank you for your call. Okay, let's take another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with A Healthier You. Can you please turn your radio down?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, can hear you fine, sir. Go ahead.
How you doing, Carlos?
Hey, what's up, Charles?
All right, you got some friends listening. Good deal.
I'm sitting here listening to you this morning, man, and I'm just so thankful that we got somebody like you putting some information out there and making it available to all of us, man. The book was incredible. And, a lot of your life, man, is so reflective on some of us old schoolers. Let me just say that. And you hit on a lot of things that we all, as kids in our age group, we grew up knowing. And, I wish that a lot of the youngsters could read this book, because I think it'll take them back to where they need to be nowadays. Because they're getting off track and they're going these detrimental routes in life. And I think that if they just read that part of their curriculum, just have a read on this book, and I think it'll pull them back to where they need to be. Other than that, you're doing a great job, my brother.
Hey, this guy, man, we became friends from him attending shows, and he's like a big brother to me. Mm-hmm. But he put that added pressure on me last night as I was going over my notes and preparing for today. He sent me a text and he said, "Hey, I grew up listening to that station."
Oh, so he said, "So you better do me proud."
Oh, yes, indeed.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for your call, and we appreciate your fine comments, and we're going to talk about how we can continue to shape this generation. I think as men, it is time for us to really take that battle cry to the field. So thank you so much. All right. Well, our phone lines are blowing up now, Carlos, so let's take in another call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with A Healthier You.
Good morning. Mr. Carlos Wallace, I was wondering, what was the real motivation behind this book?
Actually, as I was saying, I had no, I didn't even want to write a book. I was solicited, but I had to come to the realization it's not your plan, it's God's plan. And so when I did accept the offer to write the book, and then I had to decide what I wanted to write about. And my life, my parents, my grandparents, I felt was enough. And then I had to just formulate that into a passage that would make for you to enjoy it. But as I was sharing off the air, I said, when my parents passed, I never wanted their name to die. And there was something I wanted to leave behind that would last forever. And of course, a tombstone will last forever, but it doesn't really give anything. It just takes away. It takes space. And my mother's name, I have a foundation. Well, that'll live, but this book will live long after I'm gone, long after people stop donating to the foundation. But it was really more about their legacy that I wanted to share and continue on for years and years and years.
Great, great, excellent. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. Good morning. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with A Healthier You.
Hello?
Yes, hello. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you? This is Liz.
Good morning, Liz.
Good morning. I just wanted to call and say, first of all, that the interview has been outstanding so far. The conversation has been absolutely enlightening. And I really want to thank you guys for bringing a lot of these stories and principles and ideas to the fore. And I just wanted to ask Carlos, do you think that these types of conversations are in just such short shrift? We don't talk enough about these issues, about family, about bringing people together, and just about how our legacy, our foundation, and our principles not only help our generation, but the generation coming up, our children, their children's children. And what can we do to change that?
It all starts at home. It starts at home. With respect to Dr. Angelo, who just passed away this week, I was talking to a young man yesterday. I think he's 27, and he didn't even know who she was. He said he saw all this stuff in social media, so it made him Google and go look it up to see who she was. And it hurt my feelings that he didn't know. I felt like I had not